Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Thursday, June 2nd. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith back with us, and we have another special guest joining us on the Ice Guys show today. Happy to welcome former Washington Capital, former Montreal Canadian in the NHL for, I would say, going on a decade or close to it if I had to ballpark it. But happy to have NHL defenseman Carl Alsner on the Ice Guys today. Carl, welcome to the Ice Guys. Glad you could join us. How are you?
I'm glad I could join you too. Glad the scheduling worked out. We're going back and forth there for a while, like we talked about. But it's nice to talk hockey, especially the podcast way. It seems to be a little bit more fun than something that's live structured in front of the camera at all times. So it can mess up my words and not feel so bad about it.
Yeah, exactly. Podcast is a lot more free flowing. It's just, basically we aim for a bar and a pub atmosphere with every show here on the Ice Guys. It really is. It's laid back. It's relaxed. You can say what you want. Pretty much, you can let an F-bomb or two go. It's fun. We love doing that. And, of course, we get to talk all things NHL from a betting perspective. So with every guest joining us for the first time, Carl, we let them talk about the hockey journey a little bit, how you got into hockey, the hockey career that you went on, a lot of great years with the Washington Capitals, and then a little bit with the Montreal Canadiens as well. So, Carl, tell us all about that.
Yeah, well, it was won't bore you too much with it, but it was – I grew up in Burnaby, British Columbia, home of Joe Sakic, which is what most people think of with Burnaby. Paul Kariya was also from there too. So we had a pretty decent hockey pedigree, I guess you could say, and people to look up to. I went through my minor hockey there, played the WHL for the Calgary Hitmen, which was unbelievable. You get a taste of playing in an NHL rink when you're 16 years old. I think it's kind of a nice setup, springboard for a lot of guys. Plus the 72 game season was pretty exciting as well. So that was a good time. And then, I got drafted to the Capitals in 2007, originally thinking that it was Washington State Capitals and not Washington, D.C. Capitals. As a dumb Western Canadian, I guess that's what I was thinking. And then was pleasantly surprised with the area. And I was lucky that I came in at a time where we were just kind of rounding the corner and turning into a pretty solid team with, Ovi was drafted 2 years before me, the Backstrom, then me, then Carlson and Holtby, and we kind of all stayed together. Green was right in before Ovi too. So we had a really solid crew of guys. And I think we were one of the teams that, in an era where everything just became so strict with training and eating and all this scheduling stuff. We were still one of those teams that really just had a really good time, came to the rink, and it was just fun to be there. Obviously, hockey was priority, but we didn't push aside enjoying ourselves at the rink, away from the rink, and all that stuff. So I think that's what helped us a lot. And then, I played here in DC for 9 years, and then I left during free agency. Everyone always says they were sad that I got traded, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it almost would have been better if I got traded than signing in Montreal and going from a team that ended up winning the cup the next year to Montreal, I think we were maybe, I don't even know, fourth worst in the league that year. And so I spent 3 seasons in Montreal, but I guess the one thing that I can hang my hat on now that I'm done playing is that I played a lot of games in a row, which was a big thing for me. And played
a little Patrick Marleau type of run in you, not quite that kind of streak, but
yeah, no, that's the thing that was so frustrating is so when I had mine going, Andrew Cogliano was in front of us all by like 200 games, and then he had that suspension, and I was like, oh geez, like I might have a chance here because I obviously had kind of looked a little bit in the future, and I knew Yandel was, I think he was maybe 100 games ahead of me. Then Kessel, we all know, was right there, and Marleau was, I think, either right before or right behind Kessel. Anyways, I'm like, I just got to outlast these guys. I'm going to do everything I can to outlast them. And then, my second year in Montreal, I got healthy scratch the first game of the season.
Oh.
And that's
you got Keith Yandel. Oh, yeah. My gosh. Yeah.
Exactly. I had no idea that it was happening either. So then that went on a run of 2 years, only playing 9 games total and being healthy scratch for, I don't think I was never healthy scratch in my career. And I was, like 30 or 40 games of like 46 games in a row, and it was just painful. And so then finished up right during as COVID happened. I decided not to go back to the learn to play. The return to play. Learn to play is the NHL program for kids. The return to play. It was middle of the summer. Our team wasn't really even supposed to be in it. I think we were the 24th team, and I knew I probably wasn't going to be playing, so I decided not to go back. And then the next season was that weird year with travel, and from what everyone said was not a very fun year of hockey. And I ended up deciding not to go back. And then same thing this year. We just moved back to DC last August, and I'm on to new things now. So it was a 12 years total. And I'd say it was 9 really, really fun years of hockey, and then a little bit of adversity towards the end, which is nice because I think when my kids are older, if they decide to play sports, it makes the story a little bit cooler.
Yeah, they get to learn, hey, sometimes life isn't going to be sunshine and rainbows and lollipops, and everything's not going to always go your way. You got to fight through some tough times and be able to come out of it ahead, right, in the long term. And it's a good kind of teaching term. There's no doubt. So as you can tell, Carl Alsner, return to play wasn't his thing. He was not down with RTP. Yeah, you know me. I throw that in there. No, not funny. I know. But nevertheless, Alex, this is going to give you a chance here to rant and rave a little bit. That's a heartbreaking story from Carl about the consecutive games played streak getting snapped in that fashion.
Yeah, it is.
Being a healthy scratch. To rant again about your good friend. I know your favorite coach, the best coach in your opinion in the National Hockey League, Mikey O, and what he did to poor Keith Yandel earlier this year. I know that really, really bothered you.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely. Like I said, and I understand, obviously you do what's best for the club, but, you look at the position that the Flyers were in necessarily, for him to have his streak ended that way. And it wasn't as if they were, there was some young stud defenseman they went to bring up a number 1 pick or something like that to fill in that spot. They brought him up, they brought up a journeyman guy to kind of take his place. And, there's only a few games left in the year. Just go on and play him out and let him get that run at glory. And for Mike Yeo to cut that down, and now he's out of a job as well. It's not like he was getting ready for the future with Philadelphia. It's just unfortunate, but it's tough to hear that with anybody. Like I said, especially like I said, your story, the first game of the year as well to have that streak end. But the fact that you had a run for so many years and play every game, I mean, that's something that you just don't even see anymore. I mean, usually you see even guys who are top players get healthy scratch at the end of the year if they're getting ready for the playoffs or they got some nagging injuries. So it's just a testament, obviously, to the conditioning and the way you've prepared yourself for games over the years. So it's just always cool to see that, something that you may not see guys have 8-9 year runs of playing all 82 games in that stretch. As we go further along in the future.
Yeah, and that's a thing that's tough because it's a thing that in order to have a streak like that, you got to sacrifice quite a lot, and then to have it end, in a way that had. I mean, I guess it did have something to do with you because obviously the team didn't want you on the ice anymore. But to not be from injury, that's the thing that's I think kind of heartbreaking, right? And in Yandel's case, I'm just so happy that they ended up, he was able to beat Doug Jarvis because that, without a doubt, whether or not he wants to talk about it, it was going through his mind, right? Like I've come this far, I got to get there. So at least that happened. I was very happy about that. Yeah, I mean, what's an absolute beauty move would have been is if one of his teammates was like, no, like, my back, it's bugging me, I can't play, get back in there. From everything that I've heard about the guy, he's just a great person to play with, and everybody seems to really love him. So it's unfortunate. And same thing that happened to Doug Jarvis. His was broken by a healthy scratch as well. I think trying to get traded or whatever. So it's just one of those things. It's too bad, but. At the same time, I'm pretty proud of that. And, I knew I wasn't going to be breaking any records in my career. So the fact that I could even, I guess, set a team record I'm pretty happy about.
Yeah, you should be. That's something to be proud of. There's no question. And it tells you commitment in the off season. Put it this way. You can tell the guys that have that kind of a longevity streak in terms of consecutive games, they're the ones that are eating right in the off season, working out every day, off season training, that kind of thing, and the ones that are pounding back, 6 cans of beer every day, which is what I do today. That's what I'm doing.
I don't think you give me too much credit here. I will say this: I was a big proponent of working hard, but also playing hard too, right? Like I think that there's a very, very fine line to that. Some guys take things so damn seriously that I think they just break down mentally and sometimes physically as well. I don't know him personally, Phil Kessel, but I think he's also a good example of playing the game in a way that he can avoid a lot of serious injury and still find a way to keep playing. And I think it's been documented that
he's the one guy you'd say, how the hell did this guy end up playing this many games?
Bit of an anomaly in that sense, but there's a lot. I will say there is a lot of hard work that goes into it in preparation, but I wasn't ever too crazy about it. I put my work in where I needed to put it in, and then I enjoyed what I needed to enjoy too. So I think that there's definitely a balance to it, and some people's bodies just react differently. I always think a little bit more cushion sometimes can help, but a little too much cushion and you can slow down pretty quick.
Yeah. Right, definitely. You got any good Ovechkin stories that you can share?
Oh man, there's lots. I've said a couple before that you always like to run the stories past the guy that's involved in it first.
Hopefully Eddie Lack did that on Tuesday about David Booth. He said, David, can I talk about this on the show?
Oh, really?
He gave us a good one about him and Torts the other day. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. Yeah. There's just so many things that happen behind the scenes that it's kind of like the fun thing that it's your guys' secret. And, it's not like they're bad things, but it's just you feel like you're part of that fraternity and you keep it that way. But I think one in particular that's been documented because it happened at a pregame skate that I just thought was so funny was the thing when Dale Hunter was our coach. And Dale, like, no secret, is like a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He wants you to work hard and sacrifice and all that. And we weren't scoring a whole lot that season, but we were playing tough defensive hockey. And at one point in between periods, he came in and he said he was obviously, saying this to the goal scorers on the team and just saying, like, you guys aren't goal scorers right now. You guys are plumbers. So you guys go out there and plumb. You're not scoring goals, so plumb. Turned around and left the room. And Ovi kind of looked at us like, what's a plumber? He does. I don't understand. And so we were laughing and told him it's like, a plumber is someone who might come to your house that helps like fix the toilet, like what a plunger is. And he's like, oh, you can see like the wheels turning a little bit. And so the next day at pregame skate, or I think it was just practice, he took the plunger from in the janitor's closet and taped it to the bottom of his stick and went out for practice with a plunger taped to his stick. And I remember just thinking, like, holy smokes, like, how is everybody going to react to this? Because this is kind of ballsy with Dale. But I don't know if anything was said behind the scenes, but it was just phenomenal that he would go out there and do it. And it kind of broke the ice a little bit too. Like, there was a bit of the elephant in the room, and he came out and did that. We ended up having a laugh about it, and we had a pretty good season. So it was just one of those funny things that Ovi would do.
Yeah, what's crazy about Dale Hunter and that whole time in Washington? One season and done, and out essentially. And it's not like it was a good season. It was a successful year for you in the Capitals. I think you got second round, I believe, that year.
Yeah, we lost in game 7 in the second round. We were up 3-2 in the series to New York, and we got the unfortunate, one of my least favorite calls in hockey is the double minor for bleeding on a high stick.
4 minutes, yeah.
Joel Ward went to lift, I can't remember whose stick it was, and just missed it. And
what a great playoff player he was. Wow.
Oh, unbelievable.
Joel Ward.
Unbelievable. And unbelievable human being too. Just one of a kind. And anyways, he cut that guy. They scored on the power play with like a minute and a half left. And then they scored on the second half of that power play in overtime to take it to game 7. And then I think they thumped us in game 7. So it was too bad. But yeah, we had a good season, but Dale's a great example of just, he kind of did what he wanted to do. He loves
his situation in London.
Why wouldn't you? You own the team there. The team is solid. You get to live at home. You're a king there, and you don't have to deal with the politics of the NHL. So just take off.
Yeah, and look, he tried to get Ovi, I know, to play a little bit, focus on the defensive side of the ice. Mm-hmm. Big, proponent of Dale Hunter's coaching, especially that season that he had with you guys in Washington that year. And clearly it worked. Clearly the message went through because you guys did have a very good year. And, getting to the second round, losing to the Rangers in 7 games, that's pretty good. all things considered, pretty good season, no question.
Yeah, I think it was the hardest team to play against that I was a part of. You know, we'd grind teams down. We'd wait to score on the power play, and that was it. So I liked it because I'm a defensive player. I understand why the guys who play offense don't like it as much, and that's that's the tough thing being a coach is you have to please so many different people, not to mention the fans as well. So it's just an extremely hard job, and so Dale didn't want to deal with it anymore, and it's all good. We moved on after that.
Yeah, it is what it is, and like I say, I thought it was still a very good season. Getting back to the Yandle healthy scratch, and Alex was not happy about it. I didn't like it what Mike Yeo did. I didn't like what Mike Yeo said when he talked about the decision. He said, "Well, we got to give our young players and our prospects a look and a spot in the lineup." Well, you can't say that's a cock and bull story. You can't say that, turn around and put Kevin Connaughton, in the lineup, who's been with like 6 or 7 teams, a journeyman defenseman, and give me this BS that you're going to look at the young players and the prospects and the future players of the organization. So, his story didn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know for sure. Like there could have been something on the table where a team wanted to see Connaughton play, and they maybe were going to try and pick him up or something. We don't know exactly. So I don't like to really. I don't like the situation because something similar happened to me, but typically I don't like to make too many guesses on it, and be too hard on someone because you never know exactly the situation. There's so many times where it happens where a team is just trying to fluff somebody up so that they can trade them, or so another team will sign them or whatever it is. So we just don't know the situation, but Connaughton's can be a pretty damn good player too. It's all about situation. So. I agree that the wording sounded like it was going to be a first-year guy coming up to play.
The wording was bad.
Yeah, and that wasn't the case. But yeah, it's all around unfortunate, and hopefully Yandle's all right with it.
All right, great stuff. Well, Carl, I'll introduce you now to Andrew McGinnis, who's joining us here on the Ice Guys Show.
Great
Montreal Canadiens fan, so got to see you play quite a bit those last 3 years there in Montreal.
Not that long, only 91 games in 3 years, so it's. Not a ton, but yeah, it was an interesting time.
I watched pretty much all of them. So anyway, great to meet you. Great to be on here with you.
You as well.
All right, so there we go. That's Carl Walls. Usually we play an old clip, but you know what? I was rushing around today, 10 million things to do. I had an election to vote for, so we couldn't get one. I couldn't have time to get one set up. So if you're back with us, we'll get a Carl Alsner clip the next time you're on the Ice Guys Show.
Goal scoring clips out there. That's probably
We'll find something though, something that's good, something that won't embarrass you or humiliate you. It'll be something that's good, something that people will enjoy for sure.
There's a good scrap out there or something.
Oh yeah,
Carl. Since I'm late to the show here, I actually almost someone just merged into me pretty much on the highway. I almost got into a car accident. So. A little bit late to the show here, but how's life for you? What are you up to these days, and how's everything going?
It's good. Yeah, I don't really have any complaints. I'm maybe a little busier than I was expecting to be, retiring from hockey, but at the same time, I'm a busy guy, so it's not a bad thing. Just figuring out my priorities, I guess, and learning how to say no is always a problem for me. I like to. If somebody has a problem, question, something for me to go to, I'm typically, when is it? Let me figure it out. And so, just being better about prioritizing the things that I want to do and that are important to me. So that's kind of where I am with that. And in terms of hockey, I'm still trying to keep a foot in the door for maybe something down the road. But so many of these jobs that are involved with teams are very time consuming and I can't do all the other things that I want to do. So that's kind of where I'm at with that is I still hang around, I guess, a little bit, you could say. So I'm not completely gone, but not involved directly with any team right now. But I will have to get back into it because that will be my only chance at winning a Stanley Cup is on the management side. So maybe at some point you'll see me get back in.
From what I've gathered, that's kind of how it is. Like, when you're retired, everybody thinks that, it's just like trips to, these lavish places nonstop and everything like that. But like you said, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you got different things you're doing, and all of a sudden you're busy. And a lot of people like I've spoken to, even like agents. I used to be an intern doing media work for a junior hockey team here in Canada. And like all these agents, they were like, some of them were like just workers for teams, like former players type of stuff. Like, and they'd say the same thing. They're like, man, I came into this thinking I could just be like still sticking with hockey, but not like their schedule was as busy as a player. It sounded like, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, if you want to stick with the game, you pretty much have to live, like, obviously not like physically demanding, but you're still like, flying around and stuff like some of these agents, like I'm in Nova Scotia, so far East Coast here. When they come over here, they're going to hitting all the junior teams in like far East Quebec, the junior teams, all these small towns. So they're away from their families for like 2 or 3 weeks, so it's still pretty time consuming.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Everyone thinks it's like, okay, let's be done and let's be done playing and become a scout. And you're like, do you want to be a good scout, or do you want to just say you're a scout, right? Because there's a big difference right there. I thought I wanted to get into player development, and I still think that's kind of a good role, but yeah, you're traveling all the time. If you don't live in the city that the American League team is in, which for example, the Caps is Hershey, and it wouldn't be my first choice of cities I would live in full time. Great city, but not really as much opportunity as DC, where we are here. You're going around visiting all these places, all the colleges that your kids are at, that your draft picks are at, or you're watching the games in Europe on Instat or whatever, and you're just trying to keep up to date with everything. So it's just very, very time consuming. Almost nobody jumps straight into coaching, an American League team. Definitely, I don't think an NHL team. So you got to, get back on the bus and travel through all the Canadian cities and work your way up. And
unless you're Marty St. Louis, you can just go from coaching 8-year-olds to, professional hockey players.
That's the exception. Yes. I didn't quite have the resume that Marty had. So that's not going to
Not sure we're going to see that pathway to the National Hockey League again anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty rare, but yeah, so that's just kind of, I'll start with doing some media stuff. So that way I'm still paying attention a little bit. And then, I want to help out with hockey schools and stuff. We're starting our first hockey school, this summer in DC, which will actually be really fun. Trying to do like 14, 15, 16-year-olds and stuff, because our area has really exploded over the last 15 years with hockey, mainly because of Ovi. And so lots of
great season after another for the Capitals.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Lots of parents want to get their kids into hockey now. They realize how much fun it is. There's more ice rinks popping up, so access is getting better. And so I'd love to be able to see some kids from this area, really, really kind of not take over the league, but definitely make an impact, right? I think we're going to get there at some point. So I'll be doing a camp this year, which will be kind of fun.
Yeah,
and how's the podcast? Go ahead.
I was saying, it's like the DMV area. That's big. I know a big lacrosse country as far as in the U.S. So to see some of those, kids maybe also, take up hockey in the wintertime probably be kind of a good transition as well.
That's exactly it. That's what we do in Canada, right? At least you used to play lacrosse and hockey, and those are your two sports. And so I think that once people realize that there's a correlation there with those two, that they'll hopefully make that transition. But we're starting with outdoor rinks. Outdoor rinks are huge because all you need is your shoes and then stick in a puck. Yeah, that's that simple. So I think that once people realize how much fun they're having, hopefully they put on some skates at some point. And if they don't, maybe they just become a fan, and that's great for the game.
Yeah, lacrosse, one of the best kept secrets going. What a sport. I love that sport. I wish I could watch it more, but it's always on when there's like a million other sports going. It's hard, but man, I love the sport. I wish I would focus on it.
Yeah. University of Maryland just won the national championship this past Memorial Day. So
yeah,
it's a party. I've never been to a game. Halifax got a team in a couple years, like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and it was an expansion team, and they took like the number one team in the league in the NLL. And the new team, wherever they left, was the expansion team. So they got to take all the good players. It's an absolute
I'm almost embarrassed.
They bump music. Like if you're not like 8 beers deep at a lacrosse game, you're doing it wrong. Like everybody's just having a blast. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's all about atmosphere at those games, right? It's smart. I really like that a lot. I don't know how I don't know why it's different in hockey. Like I wouldn't mind having a little bit of music leaking through the speakers.
Exactly. There ain't no party like a lacrosse party.
They should put that during in the East Coast League.
Yeah, kind of sweet. I like that.
I'm kind of ashamed to admit that this season the Toronto Rock have played their home games in my backyard, Hamilton, all season. They've played their home games here, National Lacrosse League, and I haven't been to a single game. That's I'm upset about that. I'm disappointed I didn't make some effort to try to get out there for a game. But that's what happens when you're busy with this work year in and year round. But speaking of work, how about we'll get into the NHL, we promise, in a few minutes. But the podcast work and the television work, Carl, this year that you've done. Podcasting, the Capitals podcast, working a little on television, doing some studio work for the local Capitals games for NBC Sports Washington with them. How has that gone? You enjoying that?
Yeah, I do. Like I said at the beginning, I like podcasts because you can kind of just have the conversation. And I listened to, when I was in Montreal and I was spending time in Laval, I was in the car for anywhere between an hour and a half to 3 hours a day commuting. And so I listened to pretty much every podcast I could get my hands on, and I really grew to love them and figured out which ones I liked and tried to get a little bit of an idea of if I ever do a podcast, how do I want to talk on there? What kind of questions do I want to ask? And then had the opportunity to do one coming back here to DC, and we decided to just give it a shot and see how it goes. And I like it, but I'm torn between the two different styles, right? Like there's the hardcore hockey where you break down games, players, that kind of stuff. And then there's where you have guests on and you get to talk about the guest and their background and all that. And so I'm more towards the guest side, right? I like to hear about the person and get a little bit of info there. If we can ask a hockey question here and there, great. Otherwise, no big deal. But I think from my understanding, those types of podcasts, you need to have some pretty big names on typically for them to really get a lot of traction outside of your maybe specific geographical area. And so we're trying to figure out a nice balance right now, because the guy that I do it with, Stephen Wino, he's super, super smart and he's tapped into so much as well. So he's really great at talking hockey, and he's better at it than I am, quite frankly. And I need to step up my game if that's the direction we're going to go. And so there's that. Whereas the media side of it, I like the actual on-camera stuff. I like quite a bit because I get to watch the game and then I get to talk about it after, right? I get to have clips up on the screen that I can break down. So I think that's a lot of fun. It seems to be a pretty natural transition for a lot of players right now too. Just looking at these panels right now, it's just littered with guys that have played the game. So it seems to be a pretty good option. But that being said, it's like being a scout. You got to put a lot of effort in if you want to be good. My knowledge of the game will only take me so far if I'm not keeping up with it. So it just will depend on how serious I want to go.
Exactly.
Well, you got to be a superstar like Biz Nasty, right? You got to be an absolute goal scoring machine like Paul Bissonnette.
Yeah, well, you got to be able to. You got to be able to say what you want too. Like he doesn't seem to. He's created. He's so lucky that he's created that spot for him, right? Like very few people. You always wonder, like you always have a friend who just can say whatever they want and you laugh at it versus taking it personally. He's created that for himself, right? And so he can get away with saying whatever he wants, and you can tell that his skill has grown like crazy. He can break down these.
He's phenomenal. Yep.
Yeah, he's really, the people he's hanging out with too probably have are rubbing off on him just a little bit as well. Yeah. So
it's funny seeing him next to Wayne on the panel though, eh?
Yeah. Did you ever imagine that was going to happen?
And he's getting Wayne to come out of his shell a little bit there.
Yes, I love that they chirp him a little bit. I don't know that I'd have the balls to do that, but they're doing it. So it's a pretty cool gig. I would love to be able to get to something like that at some point, but it takes tons of work and someone's got to pull a string for you if you're not an all-star.
Yeah, and for those in Canada who've been inundated by these ads, watching Wayne Gretzky on the TNT panel is a lot better than watching With Every Tap, a New Legend is Born for 1 million times on the BetMGM commercials, which I've seen, too many times to count here.
I will say, I've really liked Kevin Bieksa on the Canadian panel. He's done a great job. Like, I was actually, I tweeted out yesterday, I was like, anyone know where Kevin is? And someone responded saying he had a hockey camp commitment with kids camp he was doing during this week.
That's awesome.
But man, like I do
screw you, Rogers. I'm not letting the kids down. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sometimes he gets a little bit. He has a lot of fun, like chirping Elliot and Ron and stuff like that. But I think it adds some character and fun to the panel. Yeah. But I think he does a great job.
I agree. He's my favorite analyst right now. I think. I think he has a really nice balance of that. Like when he actually wants to dive into a clip and break it down, it's spot on. And but at the same time, he loves to chirp. And I've asked a couple people about that. Like so we have the same financial guy. So I reached out to Kevin to Juice when I was going to start this stuff and just said, any advice? What do you got for me? And picked his brain a little bit. And I'm like, had to give him a shout out right away. I'm like, dude, like this is perfect. Everything you do, everyone's laughing all the time. They love seeing the stuff he has in the background, the funny pictures he'll post up there. Like you want to see a different side to the robotic, the robotic guys that we're used to. I think that there's still a spot for that because you like to see someone who's polished and can get through. Like to run a broadcast, so hard. I'm seeing that. The lady that we have, Alexa Landestoy, she's phenomenal. If you ever have a chance just to watch some of her footage that she has, she's so good at what she does, and it's a hard job. So you need those guys that are polished like that, but you also need a Kevin Bieksa or a Paul Bissonnette to make people laugh a little bit too.
Yeah, and he certainly does it. They're both great because they've got that charisma, that energy, and they try to bring a little humor to it. I don't want to say I try to be like them. I'm probably not as good at that, but I try to, be funny and energetic and, let's make it enjoyable and for the viewers and listeners, but they're really good at it, both of them, Bissonnette and Bieksa. And they're doing great work on television. And if you continue to go that route, you're right. Commitment to watching the games and staying on top of the league and as many of the teams as you can. That's definitely an important part of it if you decide to stay around in it. But we will get to the NHL. I do have to ask Carl about the 2007 World Juniors. I do, because that team, I still remember it very well. And it was a great team. It won won the gold medal for Canada that year. It was terrific. I mean, they had Carey Price, and it's funny you were reunited with him in Montreal, of course, many, many years later. Brad Marchand, I believe, was on that team. Ryan O'Mara, someone that was a guest on this show previously, way back when. Definitely a situation where that was a very good hockey team, and probably some of the best hockey playing memories, Carl, for you, were that winning that gold medal 2007 World Juniors, right?
Yeah, they absolutely were. That team was very good. I think we were a better team that year on ice. We may have been a better team on paper the next year in 2008 with some of the players we had there, but our game wasn't nearly as polished as the year before. But like, yeah, you go down the list, and even John Tace, like him and Carey Price that year in that shootout were our heroes, right? And that was it was
Taser. Yep.
Yeah, It was an amazing tournament. And I remember it very, very clearly because it was before the tournament started. I was a little bit sad because it came down to me and one other guy for the last spot, defenseman on that team. The other guy was Dustin Cohn, who was my best friend in junior. We lived next to each other, hung out every single day, and it came down to me or him to make the team. And I knew I was going to have another chance the next year, and this was his last chance. And so they picked me, I think, wanting at least one 18-year-old defenseman on that team. And I remember thinking, like, obviously I'm very happy about this, but I kind of wish that he would have had his chance because it can completely change the career arc after that in the NHL. You just get so much more clout after playing the World Juniors. And so that's kind of the way it started. And then Hockey Canada does such a good job of treating the players well. Like, you're gone during Christmas, right? So they make sure you feel really good. A lot of really cool experiences. There was a ton of really funny stories that came from that tournament. But
when you look at the roster and the names, you can imagine that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we had like really funny Secret Santas, and we spent some time in Finland. We were all jumping off these platform diving boards into a frozen lake and then all running into the sauna. And we had 2 injuries actually before the tournament even started. We were lucky that those guys were able to play in the tournament, but we just had so much fun. And I remember thinking that I was just happy to be there. And then first exhibition game was against Finland. Tuukka Rask was their goalie, and he was the big guy going into the tournament. And the first period, I had a goal and an assist. I'm like, man, this is easy. And then the next game against Sweden, first period, I scored again. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm better than I thought I was, I guess. And the next period, we win a face-off kind of. I was the defenseman on the wall in the D zone. It came right in between me and the winger, and I beat him to the puck to try and like slap it back to my defense partner. And Leland Irving was in net, and he wasn't quite ready for it. It actually went on the net 5-hole on him and scored. And I'm like, shit, okay, I just scored my own net now. So I'm up. I got two goals
+1
goal against. And then the next period, I tipped one in. The guy took a shot from out wide, and I tipped it top corner again. So then I was 2 goals for, 2 goals against.
You're in on every goal.
And I was in on every goal, yeah. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not that good. So I didn't end up playing nearly as much in the first few games of the tournament. I think because of that, which is kind of funny. And then in the last 2 games, against the U.S. in the semis and then Russia in the finals, which was really weird. I ended up playing more of those 2 games. I did the whole thing, but it was just nuts. Like, those tournaments are so much fun, as you guys know. Like, it means a lot to the country. So yeah, very fond memories. I could talk about that for a long time, but that was, we go back and think about it. And we have a couple songs that, like, Pricey put on one of the songs in the dressing room one time in Montreal. And as soon as, like, I was tying my skates, he put the song on, and I just kind of like looked up, and I looked over there by the stereo, and he's standing there smiling at me. And like, that would have been like 10 or 11 years later, right? It still feels the same way for him that it did for me. And that's when you know it's a core memory, I guess.
Yeah,
definitely.
That is, because you reunite in Montreal and you both have that same memory from 2007 World Juniors gold medal winning team for Canada. And it's pretty cool. It means it's staying with you forever. It's a lifelong lasting memory that you're going to say, wow, I'm pretty proud of that. That accomplishment and that team, and being with those guys, and to getting that done and winning gold. I just want to talk about I'll rhyme off some of the roster just to refresh everybody's memory. Jonathan Toews, Chris Russell, still in the league. Jonathan Toews, of course, still in the league. Steve Downey, agitator supreme to the tits. We remember him very well. Chris Letang, of course, still going. Rest in peace, Luc Bourdon. He was going to be a very, very good player, in my opinion. Lost him too soon. Tom Pyatt, Andrew Cogliano, who's, of course, playing for Colorado now in the Stanley Cup. Yeah, scored a big goal. Scored the game-winning goal in Game 1. Because that ended up being the game-winning goal against Edmonton in Game 1 of that. Darren Helm, another player that's actually playing for Colorado as well right now. Crazy shit here. Holy
Game
shit.
7 winner.
Yeah.
Game 6.
Holy fuck, man. Brad Marchand, of course, Boston Bruins. Brian Little. I mean, he's had an injury-marred career, but he had a lot of good years. Atlanta, Winnipeg. Cody Franson was in the league for a while. Of course, our guy, Carl Alsner. Sam Gagne still going with Detroit. Mark Stahl. Carey Price, of course, and James Neal, among others. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Loaded team.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty good. Steve Downing was actually my first NHL fight, which is kind of funny. And believe it or not, it's pretty interesting. I don't know if the record still stands, but Chris Russell, if you look at his game today, he's a shot blocking, shutdown defenseman. At the time, he set the record for most goals by a defenseman in that tournament. I think he had 6 or 7 goals in the 6 games in that tournament. It was absolutely crazy. The fact that that just goes to show you what you are in junior isn't what you are in the NHL. It can completely change. So he was a big part of that team.
I have a cliche question for you, and like I'm sure you get asked all the time, but it's kind of just something I feel like I have to ask. Just what really, like, especially at the junior level, it kind of made me want to ask, because you're talking about juniors and stuff like that. Like NHL, like I have a buddy, he just started playing pro soccer, and he had like probably one of the biggest games of his career last week. And I asked him, I was like, look, like, we don't really talk about his game too much, because he just wants us to be friends and talk about his regular life stuff, right? But I'm like, how cool was it playing against those guys? Like, it was like against Toronto FC, them. And he was like, dude, like, it just felt like another game. Like, once the game started, it was another game and stuff like that. But when you're playing the World Juniors, when you're playing like some of these games, obviously, like, the older you get and the more of a vet you were, it's the same. But does the media or any of the hype like ever play any factor with that kind of stuff? Because I kind of like when players are honest in their interviews, and they say pregame, like, or in the post first period intermission, like, yeah, little butterflies first period. Like, how much of the stuff that gets said in the media actually do you guys pay attention to? Because I know sometimes you'll say, no, I don't pay attention to that. But how much do people like the Maple Leafs, when they hear about that curse and all this and that, how much does that actually go into the room?
Well, it depends on the player, really. Like, you'll finish a game and you'll walk down the bus and you'll see everyone like scrolling through Twitter,
right?
And then you'll see other guys that are playing solitaire, right? Like, there's different people. Some guys need to know everything that's being said and want to stay up to date, and other guys could care less.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah. I'm that guy that doesn't pay attention to it. I didn't care what anybody had to say because, like I said to you guys earlier, that we don't know exactly why things are happening, right? Unless somebody inside the room tells you this is why this is happening, we're all speculating, right? It's the same thing that you do as an analyst, right? I'm not texting the coach and saying, hey, why'd you guys, play the 2-on-2 today? I'm speculating this is why they did that. And so I know that, and I've seen firsthand reporters say something in the media that is the exact opposite. And I don't know if that was a source that told them that, or they're guessing. So there was just no point of me paying close attention to it. Now, there are a few guys that are tapped in, and those guys I'll listen to now. I wouldn't while I was playing.
Right.
But in terms of like before games, butterflies and stuff like that, it's absolutely there for a lot of guys. But when you're playing, there's just no time for it, right? Like, I don't have time to think like, oh crap, here's McDavid coming down on me. It's like, okay, I got to watch what he's doing and make my decision, especially with how fast he is. I don't have enough time to think that.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you look at the guys maybe skating around in warm up and thinking, like, I remember thinking clearly when we were playing Sweden in that 07 World Juniors, I'm like, that's Nick Backstrom. Like, this guy's legit, I should probably watch out for him on the ice. And that's all pregame stuff. But yeah, once the puck drops, it's, I guess the advantage to knowing some of these superstars and stuff is that I've probably watched them more than they've watched me. So I know some of their tendencies.
Okay.
Like,
cool.
Give you an example, Marty St. Louis, right? Like I watched him play a bunch, and then one time to this day, it's pissed me off. Matt Duchene did this move to me, and it was the only time that it happened to me, but he came busting wide on me. And that play where the defenseman kind of sticks their stick out and the forward will put it underneath the stick and then quickly roof it, right? And Matt Duchene did that to me. And then I was really mad about it. And then Marty St. Louis tried to do it to me like a couple games after. And I'm like, nope, like it won't happen. I've seen you do it a bunch of times. I had never seen Duchene do it before. But I know you do it. And he tried to do it on me 2 or 3 times over the span of a couple of years. And I knew that because of watching him play, whereas I guarantee he didn't know what type of stuff I did, right? So there's an advantage
that's
to
cool.
some of the superstars, but I guess it just depends on how much you're paying attention to what they're
I feel like it'd be hard to watch TSN.
That's good insight. Yep.
Like it'd be if I was an athlete playing like for the Montreal Canadiens, you can't watch like TSN or RDS, like they're talking about you. You know what I mean? Like unless you're just an egotist and you want to like you love hearing people talk about you. I'd be watching like Netflix pregame or like in the afternoon or more. I'd be staying as far away as I can from sports,
So the thing is, like, you want to watch it to see the highlights of the other games, but then your stuff comes on and you just want to leave the room. Right? You had a good game, sure, watch your goals or whatever, but otherwise leave the room. But that was what we were in DC. Like in the morning, they'd have, I think it was NHL Network. Yeah, NHL Network. NHL on the Fly, that's what it's called. Yep. And everyone would watch it while they're stretching, whatever, just to see what happened around the league. And then as soon as everyone got their highlights in, we were Family Feud right away. Like that's cool. Let's just do something else and let's all have some fun.
Yeah. No question about that. Great stuff talking about, just the little nuances of certain player tendencies, and definitely there's definitely some wherewithal and knowledge that certain players have about maybe the way another player on the other side of the fence, the other team plays. No doubt about that. We'll get into briefly the Washington Capitals, since you know that team inside out, pretty much covered them this year. They've got everybody tied. They pretty much don't have many issues in terms of who are they going to re-sign. They don't have many, if any, unrestricted or restricted free agents. So obviously they get bounced in the first round by the Florida Panthers. What do you see from this team going into the offseason and next season, Carl, with this Washington Capitals group?
Well, I mean, it's tough because there was talk all season long about their goaltending, right? That was an issue. And it's funny because if we look at the playoffs right now, we have one series with 2 guys that are considered the 2 best goalies in the league, right? Yep. That you expect that you need to have to win in the playoffs. Yep. And then no offense to the other 2 teams' goalies, but they have guys that they haven't been spoken in that breath, and the games are 8-6 and 7-5, whatever they are, but they're still finding ways to win games, right? So that's been the issue in Washington, is figuring out who their goalie is and who's the one that can actually carry them into the playoffs, and who's going to have that longevity, because they've both had some injury issues throughout the season. And I'll be the first to admit, like, I don't know goalie stuff that well. Like, I can't tell you which is the better technical goalie, and I can just tell you how I feel watching them play. Like, when I watch Vanacek play, I feel more comfortable. Like, I think that he's the way he stands in the net, the way he makes his saves. I'm like, I got a little confidence. Samsonov's the opposite. I think he's got a ton of skill and he can be really good, but I just don't always feel that he's going to be there that night. So I think that's the elephant in the room.
Pretty much what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be what they would need to kind of figure out and see what kind of options are out there. That's the question. Who's available, and do you want to take a chance on somebody who has maybe had some tough times? There's like a Carter Hart, something like that. Do you want to try and resurrect somebody who's fallen on hard times and see what's there? Maybe, but I'm not too sure what their plan is. And then in terms of the defense, I mean, I don't know for sure. I thought they had a couple defensemen that needed to be re-signed. I know Brian McClellan had said that they were going to hope to retain a couple of them. So we'll see where that ends up going. But I think overall the team needs to inject some youth. They need some of these young studs to just kind of show themselves and start to take over a little bit, because Backstrom is pretty banged up over the last 3 years.
Yes. Yeah, he has been. Yeah.
No secret there. So hopefully he's able to get back, and then if he does get back into relatively Backstrom-esque form, because that's what we love to see. Same thing, Tom Wilson, ACL. It's a pretty bad injury to have. So they got some stuff to worry about. But I think the main thing is goaltending and trying to find a way to get some youth into that lineup, whether that's some of their draft picks or maybe making some trades for some young guys. But those guys are hot commodities right now. It's kind of a young guys league.
Yeah, it is one of the older teams going, Washington. There's no doubt. And I think they need another defenseman, too. I like Carlson. I think Martin Fehervari is a guy that's improved throughout the course of the year. Orlov is going to be, steady, reliable. Nick Jensen. But, you get down the depth chart a little bit. Let's see, maybe they can add a defenseman. I'd probably look at that. And I agree with you about the youth perspective. Definitely, yeah. I think they could use an addition in that for sure. Yeah, Andrew, go ahead. You were going to
real quick. Ian, Ian will probably laugh because I ask everybody about this guy, but I know that I've read a few stories about you seeing his progression and stuff like that. I'm talking about Liam O'Brien.
I knew it. Freaking Liam O'Brien mentioned again.
I always bring him up, but you actually played with him in Washington, and this is a little bit different because yesterday I was asking him about just some Coyotes players and stuff like that, but you saw his progression. He's a brother of one of my good friends. What can you say about him? Because I know that you were there with him when he kind of got his start, weren't you?
Yeah. Tuna. That's his
Big
nickname.
Tuna, yeah.
He's he was kind of an interesting guy. Like, so he came up with Tom Wilson, Michael Latta, and Burakovsky and him and Obi, and they were always kind of hanging out together, always trying to break in the same time. And Tom and Berkey kind of separated themselves a little bit, and even Latta got a little bit more action, and Obi was just kind of trying to do what he needed to do, right? Like, maybe he wanted to score goals and play a little bit more offensive, but knew that he was going to have to muck it up a little bit more and find a niche somewhere. And he's just been a guy that, like, it kind of makes me smile just seeing that he's getting more and more action everywhere, right? Like, he's just hanging on there and finding somewhere else, a new place to love him. And I think that's amazing, because so many of those guys can kind of just like peter off and go away, and he's not doing that. He's able to be able to continue, now say a pretty damn good career for most guys. So yeah, I don't know. I just liked having him around. I like someone with a big, thick, mane of red hair.
I had to ask. I know Ian's laughing, and it's not like I expected. It's all good fun, Ian, because I always bring him up to people. But Ian, this is probably the
That's
first
all right.
guest.
You know his brother.
Yeah,
So
but this is probably the first guest, Ian, where it actually makes sense that I asked that question because they actually knew. I pretty much ask everybody, but it's not like he's some superstar player. But I just think it's cool because obviously I know him, but he's not some guy going top corner every night. But Arizona seems to be a perfect home for him. Got his start with Washington, and I just saw a quote actually just in some story I read that you were saying how you were happy for him and stuff like that. So I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Well, Arizona's a perfect place for a lot of guys right now. Andrew Ladd got to go there and play again. Jay Beagle got to go and play a lot. Like, they're willing to take guys and give them chances right now. And it's kind of a nice place to be. Although
not a lot of pressure from the media there. And
no pressure from the media. You don't have to own any pairs of pants. Like, it's just shorts weather all the time. It's kind of a sweet place to be. You just got to watch out for scorpions. Otherwise, you're all good.
You mean players there aren't put under a high level of stress by the two media people that are asking them questions after a game? I mean,
their highest level of stress is going into the going off the fairway to look for their golf ball, worried about getting bit by
going into the rough, eh?
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good question. Now, we're gonna have a running counter on the ice, guys. How many times does Andrew bring up Liam O'Brien versus how many times does Renus Vitalin's Vito bring up Teddy Bluger because he played with him way back?
Ian, you bring up some Hamiltonians quite a bit. I've heard you bring up a couple Who's the one you always bring up? I can't. Oh yeah, Darnell Nurse, isn't that?
Of course. Yeah, I always do the name drop that he's from Hamilton. I'm proud of the guy. He's playing great.
And then usually I ask a question about the minor leagues. So
yeah, we all have our crutch. Indeed. All right. We're going to finally turn our attention to the NHL, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last night, we'll recap briefly. Not Carolina, they're done. Tampa Bay, I should say, and the New York Rangers. Look, I mean, we asked the question. I did on the show yesterday. 9 days off. This was either going to be rest and they're going to be just fluid and it's going to be a great benefit to Tampa, or they're going to be shaky. Maybe a little out of sync, out of rhythm and momentum. They rolled through Florida 4 straight games, and then you're sitting there for 9 days. It could be a detriment. And I knew right away that first goal, Chris Kreider left all alone in front of the net. A great pass from Mika Zibanejad. And there's the Zach Bogosian going for a nice little skate into the corner there. An egregious defensive breakdown. I said right then and there, this team doesn't look sharp. They don't look like they're in sync here. And this looks like, whoa, this could be a night for Tampa where, hey, it's not going to go well for them. And sure enough, it didn't go well for them. And it continued most of the game. And the Rangers, give them credit. Their forecheck worked Tampa Bay over. Kind of looked like a team that was 9 days off because of the fact they were slow to react to the cycle. In terms of, the Rangers really got the forecheck game going. And it seemed like to loose pucks all night. The Rangers, for the most part, were winning those battles. I think in the first period, after Tampa tied it, there was a stretch where the Lightning were carrying the play a little bit. But in the second and the third period, the Rangers took over. And it was a terrific performance. The big gun stepped up. Kreider, a big game. Zibanejad, a big game. Adam Fox, another outstanding game. The power play scores again. What else is new? I mean, this power play is on fire. And I said from a player prop standpoint, you got to bet some player props with the Rangers on the power play right now. And I took Adam Fox plus 182 to score a power play point. Zibanejad at almost 200, plus 200 to score a power play point. And both of those came through. And I also said, Philip Hedl, watch out for him. This guy is playing great. He's on fire. He's heatling up right now for the New York Rangers right now. And he is. And the other teams are feeling the Hedl, courtesy of Philip right now. 5 goals in the last 3 games for Philip Hedl here in the playoffs. He's been magnificent. And I cashed a goal scorer prop with him at plus 475. I couldn't believe my eyes yesterday. 3 goals in the last 2 games of the Kakalaki series in the last round, and you can bet plus 475 on him to score a goal. It was an outstanding value, and I'll probably be looking to keep riding the Philip Hedl Express moving forward because 5 goals in the last 3 games. He's playing with extreme confidence offensively. Great pass, by the way, to him for the 3rd goal, and then a bullet shot, on the 4th goal to extend the lead. 2-goal night for him, and really the Rangers deserved the game and were outstanding. And I say this is pressure now on Tampa a little bit in game 2. Everyone's going to talk about 18-0 off a loss in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Tampa Bay Lightning since the beginning of 2020. And everybody and their brother is going to run to bet Tampa Bay in game 2. You just know it. Everyone's going to pile on. They know that record now, that statistic. 18 in a row off a playoff loss. They've won the next game. But the Rangers have got a serious roll going right now. And it may not be easy for the Tampa Bay Lightning to extend that streak to 19-0. Game 2 on Friday night. We'll see if that streak stays alive. Carl, we'll start with you on this one. Last night's Lightning Rangers game. How did it look to you?
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. I was hoping it was starting at 7 o'clock because I was watching Top Gun at 8:30. So I didn't catch all the game. But so going back to what I've seen just in experience is you're exactly right. A team that's off for 9 days to go in and try and get up to speed with a team that just came off of a series is extremely hard. It's notoriously bad for that team, and so I'm not all that surprised. But I will say that if there's one team that I expect to bounce back, it seems to be Tampa. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you kick them, they just forget about it and turn around and play again. So I was slightly shocked that the score was what it was, but at the same time, Tampa can afford to throw away a game and come out on the other side and play good. But yeah, I mean, New York looks pretty solid right now. I still have my, I'm not betting any money, but my friendly bets on Tampa in the end. But yeah, New York looks solid. It's a very, very hard building to play in. So if Tampa does go into New York down 0-2, it's pretty deadly.
And after last night's Game 1 win, Igor Shesterkin has got the crown of the number 1 goalie in goals saved above average now. He was like second and third most of the playoffs. He's number 1 now, 17.96, ahead of the guy that he beat last night, by the way, Andrei Vasilevsky. Shesterkin's just unbelievable right now, and he couldn't have done anything about the 2 goals. The one was a bullet-perfect shot by Stamkos, and the other was a pipe-and-in backhand from Andre Palat. There's nothing he would have done about any of those 2 goals. He's just dialed in right now. That's all you can say. Alex, what did you think of last night?
It was interesting being on Twitter watching this game, and it seems like everybody just hates Tampa Bay right now, which is just funny. Not like on a personal level, it seems like they're tired of seeing this team win back-to-back cups.
Like with the Patriots years ago, yeah.
Right, and everybody was bitching, last year about the whole, Kucherov injury in the cap, whatever, hold them through the cap and whatnot. This is one of the more fascinating teams to watch over the last 20 years, in my opinion, in the NHL. And this is coming from a Hawks fan who watched their dynasty run and seeing, the Penguins over the years and seeing the LA Kings and even going back to the old Red Wings in the 90s. This is one of the more fascinating title runs we've seen in the NHL, if not in any of the 4 major sports. The way that they've been able to do it, it's not just been, regular seasons, mind you. We're talking about the pandemic being in the way, the bubble, the shortened season, having to deal with injuries to key players and having to juggle things around. And like I said, finding that resiliency, having the wherewithal to be a team to win 18 straight off of a loss in the playoffs in any form or fashion, but to do that and also win 2 Stanley Cups in the making. It's phenomenal. And for people to just kind of, get ready to write them off all of a sudden, and everybody's jumping on board being a New York Rangers fan and, already, calling for the, Oilers and Rangers or Avs and Rangers in the finals. It's absurd. Honestly, I mean, this is a Tampa team. They've won it twice in a row for a reason. And as great as Shesterkin is, I was a huge Igor Shesterkin fan right from the jump. He's one of the guys I backed, like his first 8 starts, I bet on him. He won 8 in a row. He's definitely one of the top 10 goalies in the league, but Andrei Vasilevsky is the best goalie on planet Earth right now. And when he loses, he comes back with a vengeance and turns into a stone wall. And I expect to see that same thing. Keep in mind, the Rangers, the way they got here, yes, they played well, but, they had fortune go their way, a lot of puck luck, facing third string goalies and having key guys getting hurt in the middle of the series. We talk about, Sidney Crosby getting knocked out in that game. And that's what kind of sparked their run in the first round. So everybody's writing off Tampa Bay way too soon, in my opinion. And I think they're going to come back with a vengeance, just like they have 18 straight games off of a loss before over the last couple of seasons. I like Tampa Bay tomorrow, and I think they're still alive in this series without a question.
Yeah, and Seth Jarvis, of course, knocked out a Game 7 as well for Carolina when they played the New York Rangers. But yeah, Crosby, and then the series flipped when they were down 3-1. The Rangers came back 1-7, no question. There's two things you can't change in this world. One, people bitching and arguing about politics. And the other thing is recency bias. And you're right. People are going to see the New York Rangers last night rolling. They've won a bunch in a row. Tampa Bay, oh, maybe they're vulnerable. And now people forgot that Tampa Bay may be 18-0. Let's not forget that. 18-0 since the start of the 2020 playoffs, off a loss in the playoffs for the Lightning. On the line, of course, tomorrow night. Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been called a Rangers hater pretty much for the past 3 weeks, and it's made me look pretty bad. But I've had a pretty successful playoffs besides that, but I think that, especially, I mean, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, I mean, look, a lot of the games last year against Toronto and Vegas, we had a really, really good goaltender. And yes, I said a really good goaltender and a great team that capitalized on chances when they had them, whether it was a power play, whether it was a giveaway turned into a 2-on-1. That's what I think the playoffs are all about. And that's what the New York Rangers have done. It's what they did in game 7, where they got 2 power play goals in the first period, protected that lead and moved on. But, again, you already mentioned it. This is the first starting goaltender they've played in the playoffs so far. Shout out to Louis Domingue. I mean, that's who they were going up against. Great run by him. Great stuff from him. And then you talk about Carolina. No Freddie Anderson. Obviously, I'm from the East Coast. Huge Sidney Crosby fan here. And tough to see Trouba. I mean, we're a betting show here. Someone should have set a betting line for how many guys Trouba knocks out of the playoffs. That would have been a good line to bet on because he's a tough guy. A lot of tough hits.
Some of those were clean, though.
Oh, of course, and people are scared to go in, to his side now in the corners. But I think that the Rangers are peaking at the right time. And that old fashioned saying, big time players make big time plays in big time games. That's what we're seeing. I mean, Kreider to score a goal yesterday was like a really good plus price. Zibanejad playing well. Lafreniere is kind of coming into his own on his line and creating different chances and being physical. So I got to give respect there. But everyone's going to talk about Vasilevsky and that record for him off a loss. How about the fact that Tampa lost 5-0 to the Leafs in game 1? Why is nobody going to talk about that? I want to talk about that. I mean, what a game. John Cooper is kind of like Bill Belichick in the media sometimes. Sometimes he's funny. Sometimes he's just very plain face. He's like, yeah, it's one game. He said, I think if we had both goalies in net, we probably still would have lost. Did you guys see that quote? I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I give my credit to the Rangers, but I was hoping as a betting man, the Rangers would win game 1 so I can get a better price on the series wager for Tampa Bay. And that's what I've done. And now I always tell people a lot of times you can wait to bet the series after game 1 or game 2 if it works out the way you wanted it to, just like it did with me with the Colorado and Edmonton series. So that's what I really think. I think that New York got the job done. I think we will see a split going back, but of course we'll discuss that on tomorrow's show. So, credit given to New York, but I'm not going to just lose my mind over it until I see them do it a couple more times. 8 days off. I mean, what do people expect? I think that's like, Carl, I got to ask you, like, is that 4 days too many? I think I was saying yesterday, I had the over 1.5 first period goals, expecting to have a quick start. I don't know. I just thought that 8 days was too many. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, it is. It's you just get out of it, right? Especially in a place like Florida, where it's pretty easy to get your mind off of hockey and get on to other things. But this is the semis, right? Like we're supposed to see good teams, good matchups, and it should be back and forth, right? So if we expect anything different, then I don't know what we're thinking, because this is going to happen. If the Rangers sweep the Tampa Bay Lightning, everybody would be shocked, right? This is going to go back and forth. But I will say, and it happened to me. Well, Alex, you like asking minor league questions. Happened to us in the minors in Hershey, where we had 11 days off in between round 2 and round 3, and we came back and swept, which was very lucky. But then we had 12 days off in between round 3 and round 4, and we hadn't lost a single game at home all playoffs, so we lost the first 2 at home. And so it's just because your mind is elsewhere, right? It's so hard to come back into it after being off. And It's even it doesn't matter if it's a Tampa Bay Lightning or not. That just happens. But I want to say, like, at first I was against Tampa when the playoffs started. I'm like, I want to see someone else win this. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, it'd be sweet to see a team win 3 times in a row. Like, when was the last time we've had that opportunity to see a team that's been that good? It's been a long time, right? So I'd love to be able to be a part of that in a way, right? Like, it was watching it in my prime of watching stuff. And so I think that'd be kind of cool. But either way, it's going to be a very, very fun series to watch. And I do like New York, and I love what McKinnon had said about him and McDavid, if that's going to bring more eyes and more pressure on the series. That's the same way I feel about New York with the escrow. I want New York to make it as far as possible too, because they're great for the escrow for the NHL. So
Yes.
split in this series, I want it to go both ways. So let's go Game 7 and have our fun with that one.
There's never an issue with someone looking after their financial well-being. You're talking to a bunch of sports bettors here.
Exactly.
That's pretty funny that McKinnon says that, though. Like, in the middle of a press conference, he just brings that up.
Yeah.
Well, it's always going through guys' heads. I promise you, it's always in the back of their heads. Like, it's really, really funny. But yeah, it was a great quote by him.
But John Massey with a great comment saying fan is short for fanatic, by definition irrational. That's true. They just get so wrapped up with that team that you're right. They sometimes lose clarity of of the reality sometimes. And then Cheshire Cat's really going off the deep end here. If the Rangers sweep Tampa Bay, I'll stop watching hockey. I'll call it quits. No, that's not happening. Don't make promises you can't keep. Come on, Cheshire Cat. Come on. Don't make promises you can't. It's like the Leaf fan after they got knocked out by Montreal last year saying, I'm done with this team. Let's go to Seattle. Let's cheer for the Kraken in the here now and become a fan of that team. No, you're going to be back there cheering the Leafs next year and 5 years from now and 10 years from now and 20 years from now. Okay? Stop the nonsense, please. I'm begging you. Anyway, all right. Carl's got to go, so we've in a few seconds. So we'll let him get his thoughts here on Colorado and Edmonton tonight first. We've got Colorado minus 170 home favorites. The total is 7 here in this game. I've got my thoughts. I think Edmonton's live tonight. I think Mike Smith is a bounce-back goalie. Carl, I couldn't believe the nonsense on Twitter. We got to bench Mike Smith now moving forward going into Game 2. That's the biggest load of shit. That's the biggest bunch of hooey and biggest crock of garbage I've ever heard. I mean, you don't do that for Mike Smith the way he's played. He's still like top 3 or 4 goalie and goals saved above average. The whole defensive effort from the Oilers was piss poor the other night in Game 1. I'm glad he's going to be back in there. He bounced back after a rough Game 1 when he got pulled against Calgary. I think he'll bounce back tonight too. I think there's a back-and-forth series. I like Colorado in Game 1, and I said if they win Game 1, I think Edmonton, in a series handicap bet or to Game 2 on the money line is a good look. They showed in Game 1. They don't give up. They had the chance to tie that game late, and they didn't even play that well. And they're down 7-6, and an empty net goal puts it away. I think Edmonton is still very much in this series. They need more from the whole crew. Maybe McDavid could have a bit of a better game, but Hyman to score a goal and a point. I love that prop again. I'm going right back to it. Carl, what do you think here? Oilers Avs Game 2.
Yeah, I think we first of all shouldn't be surprised at all that people are saying fire Mike Smith. That's just been the thing all season long. It's everyone wants to say something about the goaltending. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. He's proven that he's been able to shake things off and get right back at it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I guess one of the things I love about the Oilers, and what I absolutely really loved about the last series with them in Calgary, is that you could go to bed in the second period and then wake up and the game's completely changed what you thought it was going to be, right? Like, the Oilers have the ability to completely explode and go for 4 goals in a period, no problem. And so the fact that that series went, I think it was on the ESPN or whoever it was, TNT, that was doing it, and they were joking about, all we need to do is score or not let in any more than 4 goals, and then we'll probably be able to win this game. And it's kind of the truth. It's the way that it's been going for them. And both these teams have the ability to score 6 goals, 7 goals plus in a game. So I don't know. This is a series much like the Battle of Alberta, where I would love to see it go 7, and we can watch just a ton a ton of pucks go in the net, and we can see McDavid, Draisaitl, end up with 40 points in the playoffs or more. I think that would be great. I still think Colorado's the better team, but we got a couple of injuries there. Shout out to Andre Burakovsky, huge block shot last game on a shot.
Oh, it was, yeah.
I love seeing that. Berkey's not a guy that's known for a ton of block shots, so the fact that he did that, sent him a text right after, just giving him a little praise, because that's something that goes unnoticed by a lot of people. But that was massive. But I don't know that he's going to be playing the next game. So unfortunate, happens in the playoffs. But I still think Colorado's the team to play in the series overall. But I'd expect the McDavid Draisaitl's to make a pretty big push tonight.
All right, and good stuff. And by the way, before we let Carl run here, because he's got to go in a few seconds, we have a special guest joining us. It's Craig Laughlin. It's someone that Carl Alsner knows very well. Craig, welcome to the Ice Guys. How are you? Well, thanks a lot for that, Ian. One of the things I like to see about this Caps team is how Ovechkin looks with that stick. He moves that puck so well, takes that puck to the front of the net, and really has a great stride in the neutral zone, too, to get it going, Joe B. And it's one of the things I really like about his game. He scores, he skates well, he has a big booming shot on the power play, Joe B. I just think Ovechkin's doing a great job here for the Caps. What do you think about that? There you go. There's my Craig Laughlin there.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's really good. You just got to throw in an OV every now and then, too.
Oh, yeah, a little OV. That's a great shot by OV there. There you go. Craig Laughlin, folks. Thanks for joining us, Craig. Yeah. Been listening to him for years. One of the most unique voices for sure in the NHL. All right. If you had to throw out a best bet, Carl, and then we'll let you go for tonight, what would it be? What would you take? Just
since I don't know anything about the props and anything like that, I'm going.
What player would you think is going to explode tonight offensively?
Explode?
Either team.
Because I don't want to pick McDavid, Draisaitl, I'm going to go with how about a Landeskog? I kind of like him to do something tonight, like the player.
All right, there you go, Gabe Landeskog. Excellent. And look, Mikko Rantanen, it was a good call by Ray on the Betcast, said it was due for him to show up and have a big night, and he scored a goal. So there we go. Remember that, Gabe Landeskog, to make it happen tonight for the Colorado Avalanche offensively. Carl, it was a pleasure. We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Good chat. Good luck with all your bets.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care, yeah. There he is, Carl Alsner, with us here on the Ice Guys show. Great job talking to him throughout the last hour or so. All right, Alex, let's go to you now. Game 2, Western Conference Final. By the way, I want to make it official. Edmonton for me, plus 150. I'm on that. I have a smaller bet as well, plus 2.5 games in series with the Edmonton Oilers as well. It's a great time to jump in on that. I think they even up this series. I think we've seen this team show their mettle, show their perseverance throughout these playoffs. And look, they didn't even play close to their best. They need to play a whole hell of a lot better than they did in game 1. And still, that game was 7-6 with a minute to go. They're one shot away from tying the game. They have a better game in them tonight. Mike Smith has shown the ability to bounce back. I think the Oilers are live tonight. Alex, what do you think here at game 2?
I think we see kind of more of the same as far as high scoring goes, and the balance will be, I think, a little bit, tit for tat in this one, as opposed to just kind of seeing Colorado just jump out to a furious lead and then Edmonton have to rally back. But I think it's going to be a back and forth battle. The way these two teams play, we're not going to see a lot of shutdown defense. That's just not what they do. No. And this is the time of year you just play your game. And if that's to roll the puck out and skate 4 lines and get as many shots as possible, and you're going to give up 5 or 6 goals, but you're going to score 6 or 7, then that's just the way you dance with the girl that you brought to the dance. And what's got them there this far with Edmonton and Colorado is having this high octane offense and not much defensive resistance. So I like the over. I bet over 7 at minus $1.20, thinking that I bet it literally 15 minutes after the betcast a couple of nights ago, because I thought for sure that we're going to see 7.5. I'm shocked that we're only seeing it at maybe 1 or 2 books. We're seeing 7 now minus $1.40. Which this time of year, I wouldn't even talk anyone out of that either. I mean, there's only a few games left. You can lay $1.30 or $1.40 in spots that you may not do during the regular season. As far as the side goes, I could see that going really either way. I know somebody in the chat was talking about the draw. I've seen that between plus 360 and plus 385. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see this game 4-4 going in OT. And with that, you'd have to lean and maybe look at Edmonton at plus 150 as opposed to laying the $1.70 or even laying $1.20 in regulation with Colorado. So slight lean to Edmonton on the money line, but I'm on the over 7. I like that a lot. I'll probably be looking to try to grab a first period over live like I did in game 1. And, kind of just look at that chipping those away. I don't really have any player prop stuff for this game except maybe Landeskog or Ranton. And, maybe look for some of those bottom tier guys to kind of step up and get some goals. Nazem Kadri, maybe a guy I would circle as well. But the over 7 is my favorite play of this game.
All right, like an over 7. I like the over 2. It's just a lean. It's not a bet for me yet. I'm going to take my chance, and this could be, taking my bankroll in my hands doing this, but I'm going to take a chance that we get 5 minutes of scoreless hockey, at the beginning of the first period. I mean, we should at least see these teams try in the early going to clamp down a little bit defensively, and maybe that way I can get a 6.5. That's all I need. I'm not waiting around for 5.5. I just want a 6.5. And I'll
How
jump
come
in
though,
on it.
Ian? Like what about it is scaring you out? Like why take that risk in a series like this? Like we just saw what we saw.
I think because of what the game 1 type of game we saw. It was just up and down. It was trading chances. It was rush chances. It was transition games. It was not ironing out defensive coverages and bad communication and breakdowns left and right and just a furious pace. I think the coaches and probably the players on each team are going to want to quell it just a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what you're saying, Andrew, is there's just so much skill and 4 lines and 6 defensemen for Colorado. They attack as a 5-man group every shift on the ice because the defensemen are always involved in the play every shift. Teams normally don't play that way, with their defensemen every shift all game long, but Colorado does. And it just fuels the pace. It fuels the scoring chances and ultimately the offense and the goals that we see. So it is a risk, a flight risk, so to speak, to wait 5 minutes or 6 minutes like I'm going to try to get a 6.5 in game, but I'm going to give it a shot.
And one thing, too, is that I didn't mention, obviously, Pavel Francouz is going to be a starter here because of Kemper being out with what they're saying now. It was the eye injury from the first round mixed with possibly concussion symptoms as well. That makes a huge difference because, one, you don't have to worry about Francouz coming in cold and having to just jump in the game and jumping to face on this Edmonton offense. He's going to be, fresh and ready to start right off the bat. But, two, if Kemper was dealing with these issues beforehand and trying to battle through even with the days off, and all of a sudden it just kind of came unraveled in game, then maybe that's the reason we saw Edmonton, why they were able to get their offense running. If he had been healthy or Francouz started game 1, maybe we see Colorado jump out of that big lead and Edmonton doesn't have a chance to rally back. So we will get to see something a little different with Francouz being the starter right off the jump here. And maybe that does lend some credence to where we won't see as many goals in the first 5 minutes. So that kind of helps Ian's bet of getting that better adjusted number.
And I think you got a great number, Alex, at minus 120. What I've been telling people today is that you're not getting that number anymore. So I think that if you like the over, take the 7.5 now at plus money. And I think that the series is going to either squeak under or it's going to go like way over everything. I don't think there's going to be an over where you're like, I wish wish I played the 7 so it landed on 7. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't see any 4-3s. If it's going to go over, I think we're going to see another like insane game. Maybe not like yet last game 8-6, but I've been telling people all day, like usually on the show, I'll say if I can get 5.5 minus 125 versus a 6 plus 100, I take that.
Yeah.
But in this instance, 7.5, you already think it's going to be a crazy game. And not in your instance, like hats off to you for getting a minus 120. But now it's like we're getting a 7 at minus 135.40. Frigate, if you like it at that point, you might as well take the 7.5, But for me, I'm already on the plus 2.5 series gains for Edmonton, like Ian was just talking about in this game. Look, one guy I like quite a bit, and I know everyone will say because I'm a Habs fan and he's a former Hab player, but Arturi Lekkonen's prop just to get a point remains at a really good number. Guys, there were 14 goals last game. I hope if anybody was a prop player, you picked a winner because it'd be hard to pick a loser.
He didn't get a point,
game. Yeah. Oh, he got a point last game.
Yeah. Who didn't?
Who didn't get
a point?
Who didn't? Yeah, exactly. You could have picked anybody. And also, I mean, Evander Kane plus 150. That's just like too good of a price to not bet again to get a goal. 13 goals, 13 games. Makar over 1.5 points. How do you not bet that again? And probably my favorite prop bet of the playoffs this year, I've mentioned a few times on our show, Devon Toews to get a point. how the hell do we still get minus 130-ish with him to get a point when he's a pairing with Makar and always out there with great players? One stretch pass up to McKinnon, boom, you score a goal. I mean, you get 8 goals for a team, and you got a top line defenseman at minus 130 to get a point. I think that's kind of a joke. So, those are the plays I like. I actually haven't gotten involved yet on the game. I lean towards the Oilers, but again, I kind of have that plus 2.5 for a strong wager, so I'll be cheering for them just to kind of, that's still kind of them to win the game tonight.
Get it to 6.
Yeah. So I don't want to use the quote that Ian liked. I'm kind of already pot committed a little bit, so I might not get back involved again until the series shifts to Alberta. Would you guys agree with me saying this, that we might not see an under until game 3, potentially game 4 in Alberta?
It's possible. You could see one tonight, believe it or not, but I don't trust it to see one tonight.
I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see it under this whole series.
Yeah.
Love it, Alex.
Honestly.
The one thing is Mike Smith is usually good after getting pulled, and he does play a lot better after a rough game. He will tonight. That could help the under. Francouz was very, very, very good. I think we got to give Pavel Francouz a lot of credit. He played great. He really did, coming in for Kemper in game 1. I thought he played as good as I've seen him play all year, but now he's a starter. Edmonton knows he's the starter. He got more tendencies that about what this goalie is like in the crease. And is he going to be able to back it up and play that well again tonight's a question.
And that's a big thing with Mike Smith. He's got to have at least a better first period, because if he does have another rough start and gives up a few goals and gets pulled again, then that's it. Like I said it during the betcast, you got to give him one more chance to start. But if you have to pull him again, you got to go with Koskinen the rest of the way, no matter what, unless there's an injury. Because that's just now at that point, it's definitely going to get to Mike Smith's head. We've seen the mental, ups and downs he's gone with over the last several years with different teams. I just don't think that you have a chance winning the series if you have to pull him again in game 2. So that is something to definitely look at from a kind of long board form view of the series.
Yeah, no question. There's definitely, like I say, I'm going to briefly mention, like I said, Zach Hyman and to score a point, even though it's minus 150, and to get a goal, I'm seeing even plus 200 still for Zach Hyman. You're getting around plus 200 to score a goal for him. That's just insane pricing that you can't pass up. At least I can't. With what he's been doing lately. Lehkonen is Colorado, as Andrew mentioned. Yeah, I definitely think there's that whole line. Kadri had another goal and a point. He's always worth a look as well right now,
even
especially shots on goal. Yeah.
Not great value anymore, but Hyman, I'm pretty sure I got him at like a 135, maybe 30 to get a point last game. Not even a goal, a point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they have moved that one up. It's up to about minus 150 with him to get a point tonight. So has been a little, but not on the goal prop. It's still plus 200. And Hyman, when you look at the goals, he's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals in the last 6 games, and he's on a 6-game goal streak for the Oilers coming into tonight. Zach Hyman. So goes without saying. That's my favorite prop of any player on either of these two teams tonight. It's Zach Hyman. For sure. And, McDavid and Draisaitl, as much as we think they could explode tonight, right? McDavid in particular had an okay game 1. I think he could take it to another level. He's going to be looking to explode, but there's never the best price or the best number or the best value to take Connor McDavid props. Yet he could smash, his over points tonight, even though it is 1.5 minus 136. That's not bad. I still might take a little on that. Over 1.5 minus 136, because I think this is that strong bounce back effort in game 2 kind of night for the Edmonton Oilers. So McDavid over 1.5 points at minus 135, minus 140. I might get involved with that as well here in game 2 tonight. All right, there it is. Game 2, Western Conference Final. Long show. We had a lot of great topics to get through with our guest there, Carl Alsner. It was worth it, talking World Juniors, that great team, and his years in the NHL, what he's doing now. Great stuff, great show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that on the way out. DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team, get $150 in free bets if they win. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN, bet just $1 on any NHL team, get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older, must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. I'm also going to jump in on Evan Bouchard to get a point, plus 165. That's a great, and I think the power play is going to click tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. He shoots the puck a lot. He's been active on the power play. I like that Evan Bouchard point prop as well for the Edmonton
what do you think
Oilers
Zach
tonight.
Kassian was last game to get a point?
Oh my God.
They
didn't even list it. He probably wasn't even listed, to be honest. Yeah, usually the third and the see, he's not listed for points anywhere tonight.
Right.
It's because of his place in the lineup. So he probably couldn't have even bet his point
plus
prop.
500. Plus 400.
Yeah, it probably would have been something big if they had listed it for sure. But yeah, Evan Bouchard, I like that point prop for the Oilers tonight. Wouldn't surprise. They might be a good power play points team to look at, kind of like the Rangers last night, where if you took some of those power play points props with the Rangers, you did well. Edmonton might be that team. I think that man advantage is going to come through for them tonight when they get those opportunities. All right, best bets to wrap it up. It's been a hell of a great show. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, if you shop around, you'll still be able to find some books that have 7 instead of 7.5, and you're only laying $1.20 to $1.25. So I'm going with that as my best bet. Like I said, I just don't see much defense happening between these two teams. That's just not their styles. And this is the way you win championships at this point in the stage. Now, you talk about defense wins championships, but no, you have to play your style of hockey. These are two teams that like to go up and down the ice and, pretty much just kind of rely on their offense. So that's what they're going to have to do here. And I expect it to be a more balanced game, but definitely a high scoring game, just like game one. So I'm going over 7 and minus $1.20 is my best bet.
All right, and I think you mentioned jumping on that right away Tuesday night, right at the end of the bet cast.
I literally bet it. We got off the air, and I clicked close the screen and went to my book screen and bet it. So
there you go, exactly. So that minus 120, he got it before it moved up a little bit. So over 7, minus 120, Edmonton, Colorado, game 2, best bet for Alex P. Smith. Yeah, plus 125 or so at BetMGM for both teams to score first period. You know how quickly that cashed for us in game 1 on the betcast. I'm even as someone that's hoping for a scoreless 5 minutes, you could still get that both teams to score. Even if there's 5 minutes with no goals early, you could still get 1-1 by the end of the first period with these two teams. So I wouldn't talk anyone out of that. In fact, I might still take it, that first period, both teams to score at plus 125. All right, Andrew, best bet.
Look, Ian and I both like this, and I think it's a serious wager. I'm going with the plus 2.5 games for Edmonton in the series. That's going to be my best bet for today's show. Obviously, that's not really as much actionable info for tonight's game. So I'll go ahead and continue to ride Devon Toews to get a point. That's up at minus 135 now at DraftKings. I've just been shocked how much it really hasn't moved, I guess. How little it's moved, I should say. So I love that series price, plus 2.5 in the Oilers. I've been pushing that all week. But for tonight, we'll go Devon Toews to get a point.
5 points in the last 4 games for Devon Toews, 4 consecutive games with a point, and 2 points for Devon Toews in the game 1 victory. Devon Toews to get a point for Andrew McGinnis with his best bet. My best bet's going to be Edmonton as well, but I'm going to do the full game money line tonight for game 2 as my best bet. I really do think we're going to go back to Edmonton 1-1. We've seen this team lose game 1 to LA, win game 2, lose game 1 to Calgary, win game 2. Much tougher opponent, admittedly, the Colorado Avalanche. But I think the Oilers have shown the resilience required to bounce back after a tough start to a series, and they'll do so tonight. Let's not forget they played nowhere close to their best in game 1, and that was 7-6 and 1 shot away from going to overtime in game 1. I think the Oilers have a better game in them, and I think they're live. Edmonton plus 150. For my best bet here for this Game 2 Western Conference Final for the Thursday show. All right, that'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, although we're getting to the point where it won't be 7 days a week anymore. As we get to the Stanley Cup Final, we'll only be on game days, but we're on Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Remember, we're on twice tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, daily show. Chris Corrigan, our special guest, with us tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, the Betcast, our next live Betcast, Game 2, Eastern Conference Final, Lightning and Rangers. Game 2, 8 p.m. Eastern, our next Betcast tomorrow night. Same as always, DM me if you want to join us on the Betcast tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis and our special guest, thanks to him, Carl Alsner, as well. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday. Double Dip of the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.